So you want to cover this thing about the Nintendo Switch Online playtest?
Yeah. So last week we were discussing the Nintendo Switch Online playtest that was open to 10,000 random beta players. And as we said last week, Nintendo, all that they asked was just that people not share anything, not post anything, not send any videos, nothing. Don't talk about the game at all, or well, I'm granted, I'm kind of spoiling the beans here, but whatever this playtest was, not to share it. And as we said last week, people are going to share this information, and lo and behold, what happened? And I believe what happened was at least the test hadn't even officially started yet, but people were able to see screenshots of what happened in the game, and they shared those screenshots, took pictures, and shared them on the internet, as well as the description for what the playtest was supposed to be for. And yeah, so what this is essentially is it's kind of like an sort of a community-based MMO. I guess what you could say essentially is sort of like with the Mi Plaza or like the Mi Adventure on the Nintendo 3DS, where you're like interacting with other players and you're working towards a larger goal and stuff like that. And this one is sort of like you're building stuff, you can build and craft stuff and build towers. You're trying to work towards with other players on the Nintendo Switch Online and work towards a goal. And it's it's interesting. It's definitely not what we were expecting to see. Based on like our own theories, like we thought it would apply to either like games and stuff or just like GameCube online. But this definitely is completely different from what completely different from what we were expecting. But yeah, so Nintendo obviously has been taking down every every source that pops up. But people are definitely, I would say, confused about this. But yeah. So what do you think about this playtest?
Yeah, it's one of those where I need to see it to be sure whether or not it's something I'm even remotely interested in, because the concept of it sounds kind of interesting, and it definitely, like, I mean, I'm glad that I was wrong about the idea of it being streaming GameCube games. Um, but like I need to see how this actually looks from a practical standpoint, because I can think of like Death Stranding. Death Stranding has some elements like that where when other players can leave stuff in the environment and it will show up in your environment as you progress through different areas. And so you but I mean, you're not like interacting with those players directly. It's just like you'll occasionally come across structures they built, whether it's a road that was started or a ladder that was placed or a vehicle that was left, or someone dropped an item because they had too heavy of a load, or because they got chased by a BT or something. Like, I thought that element was really interesting, and if Nintendo does something similar to that, that could actually be really cool. But really, I have to see this to know whether or not it's something I'd be even remotely interested in. Not that I'm interested in an MMO itself, but if it is essentially like Death Stranding in that sense, minus being the brilliance of Kojima, it could still be something that I might be interested in. I don't know. I just need to see it. I know that the actual like official play test begins on the 24th, or it might actually begin today. It's a little weird because like some people were saying that it begins on the 24th, which might be the 24th in Japan that it begins, which would be technically today. But anyway, yeah, like I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled for trailers that pop up on YouTube and downloading them immediately so that I can actually see it without having to worry about, losing whatever footage I have, because I just want to see what this thing looks like. I'm super curious. But what about you?
It's definitely weird. It's definitely, I don't know, like what. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a completely, say, separate game or if this is something that just comes with NSO. That like, because I'm just very curious about that. Because I mean, if it is a completely separate game, as far as it's a separate game that you buy, or maybe you don't necessarily buy, maybe it's something that is just like free to play, and you could probably. I mean, granted, I don't think Nintendo. Well, depending on the game, they do have some sort of cosmetic stuff, but I don't know. I agree that it's definitely something that we would definitely see more of. I would need to see more of. Granted, I don't have Nintendo Switch Online, so I couldn't really possibly play it. But
Right.
just as far as knowing like what it's about, I am curious on that aspect of it. Now, I think I saw something somewhere. Someone said that what was it called? Like, there was something referenced in maybe a screenshot that was alluding to, I think the game was called Doshin the Giant or
Oh.
something like that. And that was a game that was on, it was Japan only, but it was for, what was it? Was it for the N60? Okay, for the N64 and the GameCube.
Interesting.
And granted, I think there was a reference to the Doshin the Giant in Smash Brothers, but granted, Western gamers wouldn't know anything about
Right.
that because we didn't get it. But so that's interesting that if I'm correct about remembering that, it's interesting that they are referencing a character from a franchise that hasn't existed in decades.
Yeah.
So if they're reviving that and they're doing something with that, I definitely find that interesting. But I agree, definitely would need to see more information about this game before making further comments.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, since I'll be home all day tomorrow, or will, other than like, I'm gonna go vote early just because I want to get that done. But since I'm basically gonna be home most of the day, I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled on YouTube, and if I come across anything, I'm just gonna try to see if I can get that footage so I can check it out and see how it looks. But we'll see how it goes. Good stuff, though, or potentially good stuff at least.